Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Mikhail Peters. We're gonna get one of these weird car videos because I'm outside, so the lighting's really good, and I'm in a car chronically because, you know, dropping my child off and then picking my child up, so that's what this looks like. But anyway, I kind of want to talk about childbirth in Finland versus the US, and it's like, well, how the heck are you gonna make a video on this considering that you only have one child and you only gave birth in one place? I'm going to draw on the experience and conversations I've had with my friends who have given birth in the US, because actually recently I had a very interesting conversation with a friend. Okay, so first off, I'll start off with, when I was making the decision about whether to give birth in Finland or the US, I went up to like as many random people as I could who I knew had kids, and I was like, how much did your birth cost? People like my aunt or my mom who don't handle their own medical stuff like ever because they had husbands for that. Those people didn't really know, and also it's like been some years. So instead I asked like people at the restaurant who, you know, have jobs and like maybe just don't have like the same rich husbands. Well, I wouldn't say rich, but whatever you want to call it, financially stable. I don't know. The husbands who handle everything. These women are a little bit more independent, let's say. So these women were able to give me more ballpark range, like, you know, as I said, $2,000 was on like the low end after they had already submitted through insurance, and then the high end was like $6,000 if there was a C-section. Now, I talked to my one friend this weekend, and, you know, she's like, my birth was $15,000, and I'm thinking, oh, like, so she didn't have insurance? And she's like, no, I had insurance, and it went through insurance, and after it went through insurance at a rate of like, you know, the whole thing was like $65,000, and then it went through insurance, which covered $50,000, so then the remainder was like $15,000, and I'm like how? And she was super dedicated to not getting a C-section, and she was in labor for 56 hours. That's crazy. That's the longest I've heard of anybody being in labor who I've talked to. And yeah, she's very dedicated to not getting a C-section. She also had to be induced. She had to take multiple blood transfusions because she was losing a bunch of blood. And yeah, that all got to be very expensive. And I was like, whoa. So, you know, it's like going to Finland to avoid like the cost of giving birth in the US. Sure, that's one thing. But like, again, really my whole thing was like avoiding C-sections, because then I came back and I was like, yeah, you know, I had to get into episiotomy and use a vacuum, blah, blah, blah. But like, other than that, I had a natural birth. I had no epidural. It was like, you know, people are like, and you know, it really sucked, but like, there's part of me that if I gave birth again, I would want to do an epidural, so I would have the comparison, so I'd have maybe a more pleasant experience. But also there's a part of you that just feels like an absolute gangster because you like didn't use an epidural. So it's like really hard because like people are like, wow, that's amazing, and I'm like, I had no choice, so like it was not amazing for me. I know people are like, you'll forget how terrible birth was. I'm still not there, I'm gonna be honest with you, even though it's like, why the heck are you talking about having another child? Because I don't believe in only children. Like, what does that even mean? Obviously only children exist. I personally just like think being an only child's really unfortunate, because of the fact that basically you're kind of like lonelier growing up. That sucks. Not about that. So anyway, maybe it will be a point at which I like I don't know, I could adopt a child. Anyway, this is irrelevant, but yeah, so the whole difference between giving birth in Finland and the US, aside from like the cost being outrageous, is also like the C-section rate, because, you know, I just was going up to all these random women again. One woman I worked with at the restaurant had 6 children, and she had a a C-section, as I'm saying, with the second child. So then the rest of them, the remainder of the 6, had to also be C-sections. They don't have to, right? You can do a VBAC, but like that's not really common here. So like C-sections are like easier, honestly. So like, yes, people do them. I don't know. That was like the one thing that I cared about avoiding, and I was like, I would have been really upset if I had a C-section, so I'm like very grateful I didn't. But anyway, they super love C-sections in the US. This is weird. People keep walking near my car, and this is getting awkward. Okay. Well, anyway, the point is the cost is different. The rate of C-sections and the willingness to do C-sections seems to be different. And, you know, other than that, there's nothing that can shield you from the fact that childbirth is an awful experience. Hopefully this is very enlightening to the men who watch my channel, which I should check. Maybe that's no longer like 89% of my viewers. But anyway, if you have a wife or children, you should be very grateful to your wife, because this is like really a hard thing to do. Unless you like passed a kidney stone, you literally have no basis for comparison. Anyway, I really can't think of anything else with regards to this other than the fact that, like, cost would be the biggest thing. I think also just the nature of in the US them wanting to get things done easily and quickly and expediently. And I heard somebody say that they had one child born on the 4th of July weekend. Actually, I've heard this now twice. That it was a holiday weekend and, you know, the birth was progressing. And then they were like, well, we need a C-section. It's like, do you really need a C-section? Or are you just like, we need a C-section because, like, we want to get out of here because it's a holiday weekend? Yeah, suspicious. So I don't think they would do that in Finland, but, you know, I don't know. I just feel like in Finland, the healthcare cares more than in the US. But you know what? It's really a dog-eat-dog world out here. Like, I was thinking about that. Like, I just feel like sometimes when you're living a really, like, rough life, you just, like, you really start to, I don't want to say this, but I don't know how to say it, like, lose your sense of morals, and you just don't care, and you become very, like, cold and, like, hard, and it just, like, you know, like, you just, like, don't care enough about, like, humanity and the world around you, and it's sad. And that just, like, feels more like a general aura in the US compared to Finland, even though in Finland it's literally colder there and, like, obviously much harsher weather conditions. But I know in Finland they have all the unemployment and stuff, but in the US it just feels very rat race-ish. You know, like, I had to call insurance today again because of the whole I don't have a, like, insurance for my baby, and I was literally on the phone for an hour asking questions, and I was like, this nonsense would not be necessary in Finland, so meh. Whatever. Anyway, I'm gonna go continue working, and I really am just trying to keep up with the production of this channel, as I say, staying consistent for the algorithm. My subscriber count is finally starting to grow back up to 9.97k we're at right now. Help me get to 10k again. If you're interested in me delivering very specific content, please let me know. I'm not really sure what else to say at this point. I've been trying to think about, like, how I could actually get people to, like, support me somehow besides just watching my videos, which obviously gives me money. And I'm still gonna, like, think about that, because I'm gonna, like, maybe just AI that and be like, please help me figure out what to do, because, like, honestly, AI is great for when you don't feel like using your brain, and I've now started doing it for, like, almost everything in my life. Especially when you're having an existential crisis, it's really great at helping you sort through that. Yeah, I've been thinking more about, like, should I do something different with my life, you know, like, but right now, that's probably not a good idea. All right, well, thanks for your continued support of my channel for the Finnish, English American comparisons. If you would like me to talk about some other comparisons, please let me know. I'm trying to think of, maybe I could talk about, like, job interviews, because I have done job interviews in both countries. Yeah, maybe that's a topic. I don't know. Let me know what you think. All right, until next time. Bye.